Really glad that you're here because there was mistakes made with the hospitality center here, and that's where I see that going into an institution, a political entity, funding, lots of jobs, and once those things happen, nobody wants to get rid of it. I totally always believed in the concept that you do, and we have places and we have houses vacant. We have. Even in the project areas that could be reconditioned and put people in, and nobody's doing it. And it's, and you know, Crystal Ave, we've talked
Right.
about that.
If we lose Crystal Avenue, we lose our footprint of low-income housing in this community. Crystal Avenue is a high-rise apartment facility that is neglected by the federal government, and the city has taken no effort to preserve it.
Okay.
They're letting it go down the tubes. It's the kind of place where you go in and there's urine in the elevator and there's crimes within the corridors, and it's being allowed to fail. And what the community I don't think realizes is once that place is torn down, they're not going to build it again. The realtors in our community are all saying all the homes in New London should be privately owned. We want to get rid of apartments, because this is what brings down the quality or the the social life of the city, renters. So you have two groups that are saying, we don't want low-income housing. They're saying it in different ways. One is either neglect all the low-income housing, which they do. All the low-income projects are obviously different from the other streets of the town. The streets are not swept. The buildings are not maintained, they're not patrolled unless there's a problem, they're just neglected, purposefully. Or don't build low-income housing, don't promote low-income housing, and in fact make efforts to tear down the less expensive housing in the city through eminent domain and replace it with moderate income or standard housing.
And what's the only possible result to not developing affordable housing?
Homelessness. Right.
Homelessness. Right. Right now, between the souring economy, rising energy costs, escalating
Through the roof.
Escalating unemployment,
you can't get a job.
the lack of affordable
Failing
housing,
schools.
and now
Job training.
foreclosures.
Yeah.
Now we have a perfect storm. We have a perfect storm. Housing first, my understanding, is where it's being used, and this is not being used anywhere in Connecticut, by the way. It's being used in Denver, it's being used in New York, it's being used in Quincy, Massachusetts. Where it's being used, it is successful to the extent that something like 77% of the people that are put into permanent housing survive. They make it. In other words, they may continue to drink, but they're not urinating in the elevator. They're not getting kicked out. Right? On the other hand, in September of 2007, there were 17 homeless families being housed in motels in Massachusetts. Last week there were 588.
That happens here as well. When I worked for Reliance House, it was common knowledge that the Red Roof Inn in New London would offer beds, and other hotels do as well. They offer beds, they don't talk about it, they don't advertise it, because God forbid you want to sell a convention, and then, oh, by the way, the room next to you is a homeless family. They're not going to advertise it, but it happens all the time, and it happens in this city.
But I just wanted to make a quick point. If Housing First is working where it's being used, right, and on the other hand, the number of homeless is growing by leaps and bounds, what is it? It's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm which is created. And if you don't want, if it's a public policy, you don't want affordable housing, well then you are creating a mass population of homeless people. Right. And what are you going to do with them?
Right.
What are you going to do with them? You can't march them
Well, the
into the
tendency
ocean.
has been all the smaller communities push them to the larger cities, Norwich and New London.
Right.
The larger cities, they're then pushing them to Boston and New York.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, it's not our problem. They're not from our town. They're
Yeah.
from Salem or they're from Lebanon, and they don't have any housing, or they have 1 or 2 apartments.
Or you're building institutions like Pine Street.
Oh, yeah,
And,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
for people to have jobs, all right? Or you're doing criminalization like is being done in Nevada, and you're making them
You lock
criminals,
'em up in
and you're
jail.
locking them up in jail, so increase the jail population.
Right.
That's the scary part. But one of the things is like the man who was, he was here with the 10-year plan, but they have done little or nothing. Now, I was involved with them about 4 years ago, and the 10-year plan building hasn't happened. Lots of things.
By the
have not
10-year
happened.
plan, you're talking about housing first.
But housing first, which
Okay.
is what that turned
Well,
into.
then, you know what, Russ? Father, somebody in Connecticut, I mean, the federal money is there for it. It's there, right? Nobody in Connecticut is applied
I
for
think
it.
the 10-year plan, though, in Connecticut wasn't about housing first. It was about meeting the push from the government to solve homelessness, so they had to develop a 10-year plan. And that
Right.
10-year plan is a bunch of lobbyists from these mass shelters getting together and saying,
Okay.
oh, we'll figure it out and we'll
Yeah.
get back to you.
Okay.
That's the 10-year plan.
No, and
So that's not what I'm talking
No,
about.
no,
I'm
I-
talking about housing first. It's a particular
Like
the-
program
like a HUD
run by
program.
Phil Mangano.
You-
And I know, because I went on the internet and checked it out, I know where it's being used and where it's not being used, where it's been picked up
Right.
and where it's not. And I could not find any place in Connecticut.
Well, and he was here, and I think what happened is they dropped the concept. Okay, what he was talking about. See,
Because it's a hard thing to sell. Because the first thing that people think about if you take a guy off a park bench,
Right.
who's like an active alcoholic,
right.
which he probably is, and you put him into first place, how are you going to get a landlord to take him?
That's exactly.
And in the second place, if you can, how is he going to make it on his own? Well, you know what Phil's idea is? And think about it. He says, the most needy cost the most. The guy in the park bench, when he gets a cold, they call an ambulance.
Right.
Right.
He goes to the emergency ward.
Right.
He's sick every other week.
Right.
He's carted away in an ambulance.
Public Works cleans up after
It,
him.
it
Public
costs
safety
it costs
is
more to
looking around.
maintain him than if you put him in a permanent apartment. That's cheap, and you know what? If you put him in jail, that's $50,000 a year to maintain him in prison.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had done, and I talked to you, we had done it at Reliance House with case management. You put him in an apartment, but then you don't just drop him
No,
there.
you do
Right.
the
Then
supportive
you
services.
worry about how's
Right.
he going to go from this HUD program, which the good thing about a HUD program is it's going to have some code enforcement for the building
Okay.
tied to it. It has to. And so you've got a better apartment. It has to be maintained. The landlord is going to want that money because that money is guaranteed to him, just like Section 8.
Right.
The government's going to send it as long as he does his job and this guy does his job. So if you have, instead of a mass shelter with social workers trying to solve everything, if you have a case manager checking in and saying, okay, let's work on changing the income structure for this person. Let's see if we can work with his addictions, and maybe we can't. But just help him be stabilized there.
Absolutely.
Instead of, as you said,
Absolutely.
a temporary
the,
Band-Aid.
the idea that before you can give like a street drunk housing, you first have to cure him of his addictions.
It's not gonna happen.
That's bullshit. It really is. I mean, it's great if you can, but you can't, in most cases maybe you can't, and that isn't the point. The point is the guy's homeless, right? So you put a roof over his head, and then maybe. If my solution to a problem is a bottle, if that's my habitual solution,
Right.
and I don't have a roof over my head, my problems are so insurmountable that I'm going to the bottle. Right. If you put a roof over my head, then maybe I'll drink, maybe I won't. Hopefully I won't. But if I do, then hopefully I will drink the way that other people who have apartments drink.
Right,
Yeah.
like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Well, when our group used to crawl into the abandoned buildings of Norwich, and I would rather see that person who's drinking or doing drugs in their apartment,
Yeah.
where I know where they are, than in an abandoned building where they're setting fires to keep warm, using other means which are dangerous to not only the community and the building and the structure itself, but to themselves, just out of necessity to stay alive in our cold winters or hot summers. I'd rather know where they are and say, this is what you need help with, or maybe you need help learning how to cook, rather than one poor fellow I had who I pulled out of a snowbank in the street of Norwich, who ended up, he was so alcoholic that he had to go into nursing home